30 seconds. You're listening to The Perplexed Christian.
Welcome to The Perplexed Christian. Today I want to talk about the Trinity of Rejection, as this will not only allow you to know more about my perspectives, but it will also allow us to explore why I've come to hold the beliefs that I do. All despite what holding my beliefs has come to mean for me, and for those of you who find yourself in the same boat because of our similar perspectives, namely, that we are despised and rejected by not only the society at large and the system, but also within our own communities, such as the church. As our communities seek to adopt the principles, beliefs, and worldviews of the system at the expense of our heritage of common ancient understandings, with perhaps the best example of this being the church's continued compromise on issues related to the LGBTQ+ movement, or these past 4 years as the church buried its head in the sand as governments all around the world violated our God-given rights, all in the name of bending the knee to the government. Being good citizens, as opposed to declaring that Christ alone is king and being good Christians. Now, I want to be clear here. I am a Christian. Yet being a Christian does not prevent me from speaking the truth. And the truth is that the church abandoned God's people and frankly abandoned God these past 4 years, choosing the world, the system, the government over truth and obedience to the one true King. This is why I start with the first of the Trinity of Rejection, being a Christian, as this not only means you will be persecuted by the world, but increasingly it means you will be rejected and persecuted within the church. Since being a Christian obligates you to consent to and uphold certain fundamental beliefs, which place you in direct conflict with the current institutional church and our current society at large here in Canada, and which include, it is for freedom that Christ has set you free, that there is objective truth, that truth is Jesus Christ. God created them male and female. Marriage is between one man and one woman. Capitalism is the only biblical economic system, as the 10 Commandments upholds private property and rejects covetousness. That you have a right to self-defense, whether that be defending yourself from others or the government. That you have a right to freedom of conscience and therefore freedom of speech. That abortion is murder, as we are all created in the image of God. And on it goes, with all of these beliefs putting you in direct conflict with the system and those who seek to compromise with it, like the institutional church. After all, freedom is for 2-year-old children, as we learned from a University of Toronto professor who mocked the Freedom Convoy's demand for it, implying that the government needed to crack down on such freedom movements, for that is what a good parent does when a child acts out and makes such unreasonable demands as freedom. Or what about the occupation of nearly every school by the LGBTQ+ movement, which teaches that you can be any gender under the sun, you can sleep with whoever you want, and marriage is simply an outdated patriarchal concept, not rooted in God and his purpose for humanity, but rather by oppressive heterosexual men. Then, of course, there is socialism and communism that is being implemented under the guise of the need to combat climate change. As the government continuously regulates businesses out of existence and now wants to regulate our own private property out of existence as well. After all, what good is a digital currency if you aren't going to be a good parent and prevent your 2-year-old children from buying things that are harmful for them? Even if it is their own hard-earned money, and even if there is little to no evidence to suggest that the object of their desire is harmful to anyone but the system. Same with bodily autonomy. I mean, sure, you want to murder another person instead of taking personal responsibility for your actions? Then go right ahead. But how dare you even suggest that you won't take an experimental vaccine that has now been properly vetted in terms of safety, or else we will have to take away your livelihood. After all, your children can die of starvation, or from lack of shelter, as you can't buy groceries and lose your home. But how dare they have to live in a world where their parents are unvaccinated? How then could they live with themselves? Then there is your freedom of speech and conscience. That can't be allowed. Remember, You are just a 2-year-old, and so a 2-year-old can't be allowed to express themselves. Rather, you, the citizen, must be gagged by having no freedom of speech, conscience, and expression. You must be bound by having no right to your bodily autonomy, and you must be deprived of your ability to associate with others because you are dangerous. After all, according to the system, there is no difference between a citizen who is a Christian, a 2-year-old, and a slave. After all, the only difference between our current would-be slave masters and those of old is that instead of physical violence to induce compliance, our current would-be slave masters use the tool of extortion. This is how the system has viewed and treated me in my own personal experience, to the tune of the personal loss of tens of thousands of dollars. And this is how the system, the government, the institutional church views any citizen that believes that Christ alone is King, in freedom, in truth, and/or in life. And this is why the first and most fundamental of the Trinity of Rejection is being a Christian. And that is okay. After all, we know who wins in the end, and the one who wins in the end, if you are a Christian, loves us and sees everything. And because of this truth, we who are rejected by the world just like Christ was have a choice. We can either be silent and thus complicit with the system, or we can in peace begin to stand up and speak against this dark, corrupt, sinful, and destructive system that has risen in our great nation. A system that seeks to rule over a nation of sheep, when we have the ability to be lions. So let's be righteous and speak the truth boldly, for then we will be lions. For as it is written, the righteous are as bold as a lion. This is why I started this podcast, and this is its purpose, as so eloquently put by recently elected Argentinian President Javier Milei, who stated, "I did not come here to guide lambs, I came here to awaken lions." So wake up, Canada, wake up, you Canadian lions. For if ever there was a time to fight for our God-given heritage, freedom, truth, life, and rights, it is now. This has been the Perplexed Christian. May the Lord bless you and keep you. 2 Corinthians 4:8.